So college comes and we load up the little family van and I go to college. And I'm at college and I'm working hard and I've got really good grades and I'm doing really well. And I hate it. Hate it. I loved the school I was at. I was at SFA. The professors were amazing. I had really good friends. I loved being in small classes. Unfortunately, right before I had moved, I had gotten rather attached to the city of Houston. I was only 18 and my parents let me actually go downtown, and I hung out with theater geeky kids, so we were always like at the art museum and going to plays and hanging out and coffee shops and doing the things that you do at 17 when you're a geeky arty kid. That's just what we did. And suddenly transporting myself to the middle of nowhere was not very appealing to me. There's only so many bonfires you can go to in a month before it becomes unappealing. I didn't know what to do. All of my friends were really happy in college, so I didn't even feel comfortable talking to my friends about the fact that I wasn't happy. And I didn't want to tell my parents because I didn't know how they would respond to this, because I was not doing what I was supposed to do. I wasn't following the cookie cutter path. And so I just decided not to register for my fall classes at the end of my freshman year. And so it's like the weekend before finals, and I come home to trade out my little car for the family minivan. And while I'm sitting at dinner with my family, my parents bust out with, "Hey, by the way, we didn't ask you, what classes are you taking next year?" And I just froze because I didn't even know what to say. And so my response was, "I didn't register for classes. I'm not going back to college. Can I please have more mashed potatoes?" And, they start to pick it up and then realize, wait, what did you just say to me? And that was the first time I learned about transferring or different types of housing. That was the first time my parents and I had a real conversation about college. I found out that my father had not started at the college he graduated from. He had gone to a different school. He had been unhappy. He had decided to leave and transfer and move on to find something else. And it was interesting how having this conversation that we really should have had when I was in high school, made all the difference. I suddenly felt more comfortable. And so I actually came home for a semester, since, when you kind of wait that long, you don't get to go other places, and lived at home for a semester and went to community college and started applying other places. I am actually a proud UT graduate. Ironically, I had to be forced to apply there. I had no interest in going to that school. I thought it was ridiculous. I thought the color was horribly ugly. In fact, when I first went to UT, I wouldn't even buy orange. I would only buy the navy blue and gray shirts. And ironically, something about that place just fit. The atmosphere fit. The lifestyle fit. Austin fit. And I kind of found myself there. And I loved going to the communication school, and I just loved being there, and it made a big difference. And when I got out of school, unfortunately, if you guys probably didn't notice, being a May 2002 graduate, you guys probably do, the towers collapsed in September of 2011, which means pretty much the entire economy went. So most communication students were getting job offers by Christmas before their graduation, literally the year before I graduated, and then the year I graduated, there was like nothing unless you wanted to work for free or doing internships. So it took me a little while to find a job, and when I did finally find one in Austin, I was very excited, and ironically, I worked for a test preparation company. And I was an office manager. I was a fancy business lady, and I got to wear my little suits, and I ran an office, and I hated it. I hated everything about it. I hated my stupid desk, and I hated dealing with other people's bills and stuff, and I hated making sure things were running smoothly and people were hired. You would be amazed at how awful it is hiring people. I don't know how y'all do it. I am not built that way. Resumes alone, resumes are awful, and you would not believe how bad some of them look. Oh, they look bad. And I now quickly realized, wow, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. But I did have one facet of my job that I loved. I was actually in charge of interacting with the students at the facility and making sure that they were happy and they were having their needs met. So when they would take practice tests and their scores would go up, guess who they would come tell? Me. So it was like I was with them as part of their journey. And ironically, they were the only reason eventually I got to the point where I would even get up to go to work. And I was like, kids. And most of these people at this testing facility were my age, if not older. I mean, because they were prepping for like MCAT and LSAT and all that jazz. And I decided, okay, well, I'm really not happy doing this. Maybe I'll just try this whole teaching thing. And so my parents graciously let me come home again. I went home a lot. And I moved in with them again, and I was just going to sub. I would just try subbing. It's like I still couldn't wrap my head around the idea, so I was just going to dip my little toe in the water. And very quickly, I realized I was pretty good at it. And I got books for these long-term sub jobs, and so it was sub after sub after sub. So I was constantly working, and because I was in a long-term position, I was actually getting to do kind of lesson planning, and I was getting to work with the kids, and I was getting to see their progression. And by golly, if I didn't stinking like it. And as much as it was kind of hard for me to admit, I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll try this. I'll do this until I can figure out what I want. That was 8 years ago. So this was my temporary job while I decided what I wanted to do with my life. And I'm still here. So sometimes the one thing you think you would never be willing to do might just be the thing you're supposed to do. And unlike Coach McLean, there are lots of days when I am not happy to come to work. But ironically, that's not, it's not the students, it's not that, it's never that. Even when students don't do well, I feel like I didn't do well. I messed up. And so it's interesting how when you really feel like something matters to you, it is about you. It's about what you're doing to help others. If my students don't do well, I let them down as a teacher, not the other way around. Although don't tell them that, because I totally tell them it's their fault. It matters, so it's important to pick something that you are passionate about. And it's important to really fulfill that dream, because it does make a difference. There are lots of things that I have to teach that I don't like, that are boring, that are not as interesting as other things I get to teach, but it's important that the students don't know that, because they need to understand why the piece is important in the first place. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean it's not important in the grand scheme of things. And that's kind of what I learned about life in general. Like, just because you don't think that's what you want doesn't mean you should shut the door on that option. And sometimes the thing you think you'd be the worst at might be something you're actually really kind of good at. And it's worth trying and doing. So it's a little bit about me and how I ended up in the interesting predicament that I'm in. So thank you very much.